Hey everyone. So, have you ever spent way too much time typing out perfectly spaced, meticulously formatted text in your code editor only to have the web browser completely ruin it the second you hit refresh? You know the feeling, right? You indent, you space, you hit enter to make it look just right, and the browser just kind of laughs at you and squishes it all together. Well, if you're not in your head right now, you're in exactly the right place. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to master HTML formatting and finally take control of your code layout.
To get things started, we really have to establish a fundamental law of web development. Take a look at this comparison right here. Basically, what you type into your code editor is rarely what the user actually sees. On the top, we've got our source code, beautifully spaced out, huge gaps spanning multiple lines. But down on the bottom, the rendered browser display. It's the exact same sentence, but it's completely flattened into a single continuous line. Why does this happen? Well, because the browser acts like an aggressive cleanup crew. It really doesn't care about your artistic spacing.
Okay, let's dive into this. The invisible villain that's destroying your layouts is a process called white space collapsing. This is the browser's strict, uncompromising rule. It goes like this. No matter if you add 10 consecutive spaces, 5 empty lines, or just smash the tab key, the browser is going to automatically condense all of that continuous empty space down into one single space. Now, to be fair, the browser isn't doing this just to annoy you. It does this to make sure text fluidly wraps on literally any device. Whether you're viewing it on a massive widescreen desktop monitor or a tiny smartphone screen, the browser has to control the layout dynamically. But hey, you aren't powerless here. Let's equip you with some tools to fight back. Section 1, Mastering Block Level Paragraphs. All right, let's get you your very first tool to structure your text the right way. We're talking about the fundamental paragraph tag, the P tag. This is your go-to element for logically grouping text. Now, the paragraph tag is what we call a block level element. As you can see, a block element forcefully starts on a brand new line. It absolutely refuses to share horizontal space. It stretches all the way from the far left to the far right side of its container. And it even automatically adds built-in vertical margins, so blank space above and below the block. Compare that to the inline elements, which naturally sit side by side and only take up as much room as the text itself.
So the really crucial point here is how we use these block elements together. I need to passionately warn you about a massive rookie mistake. Never ever nest block elements inside a paragraph. Sure, you can safely put inline tags like bold or italics inside a P tag, but you absolutely cannot put headers, div boxes, or other paragraphs inside a paragraph. If you do that, it completely confuses the browser. It actually forces it to break your layout and auto-close your first paragraph prematurely. So, rule of thumb, keep your blocks separate.
Moving on to Section 2, Thematic Shifts with Horizontal Rules. You know, sometimes you just need a complete shift in the narrative. Think of it like a scene change in a movie or a major shift in a topic. And that brings us to the HR tag, which has some really unique behaviors. First off, it represents a semantic thematic break. Second, it's what we call an empty tag or a void tag. This means it's completely self-contained. It doesn't wrap around text, which means you literally never use a closing HR tag. You just drop it in. And third, just like our paragraph, it acts with a block level layout, so it automatically drops adjacent text to a new line and applies default margins to push the content away.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the formatting cheat sheet we've put together. Seriously, take a mental screenshot of this. When you want to bypass the browser's automatic layout, you have specific overrides. The BRE tag forces a line break, the PRE tag stops whitespace collapsing entirely, and the NGSP entity forces a literal non-breaking space. Keep these 3 methods right in your back pocket because we're about to tackle a real-world layout dilemma.
Which brings us to Section 3, Solving the Poem Problem.
Welcome to the classic layout hurdle. You will inevitably face this with things like song lyrics, poetry, or even computer code snippets. Let's say you write a nice little poem in your code editor, and you hit the enter key at the end of every single line, right? Well, because of whitespace collapsing, this is exactly what the browser spits out. Roses are red, violets are blue, HTML is cool, and so are you. It's all on one single squished line. That rhythmic visual structure you intended? Yeah, it's instantly destroyed. But wait, before we fix this, I have to jump in with a major best practice warning. Looking at that flattened poem, your very first instinct might be to just spam line break tags everywhere to force gaps down the page. Please stop using BR tags for page layout spacing. Stacking multiple line breaks completely ruins screen reader accessibility for visually impaired users. It literally reads out break, break, break to them. Not a great experience. Plus, it creates incredibly inflexible designs that are a total nightmare to update later.
always use CSS for big visual gaps, never line breaks.
All right, so how do we actually fix this? Let's move to the solutions and see how this builds. We have two distinct ways to rescue our layout. Solution 1 is the explicit way. This is where you carefully add a single BR tag to the absolute end of each physical line, which forces the text to drop without creating a brand new paragraph. But then we have Solution 2, the pre-formatted way. And this is where we rely on our absolute most powerful weapon, by wrapping the entire text block inside a pre-tag. And this brilliantly illustrates Section 4, the pre-formatted text override.
Using a pre-formatted text tag is basically like looking the browser dead in the eye and ordering it to stop cleaning up entirely. When the browser sees a pre-tag, two golden rules apply. Number 1, it preserves all white space literally. Every single space, every tab, every hit of the Enter key is honored exactly as you typed it. Number 2, it automatically switches the text to a fixed-width, monospaced font, usually something like Courier. And because every single letter takes up the exact same horizontal space, this tag is absolutely perfect for displaying computer code snippets or neatly aligning complex data tables without having to build out a full HTML table.
But of course, here is the twist. Notice how the text is overflowing right off the edge here? The pre-tag actually has a major piece of kryptonite. Because it so strictly honors your formatting, it does not auto-wrap text on narrow screens. So if you have a really long line of code or text, it will overflow right off the edge. This forces mobile users to scroll sideways, which is a huge responsive design flaw. To fix this, you actually have to use a little bit of CSS to force the wrapping, while still maintaining those literal spaces.
So, what does this all mean? We've uncovered exactly how the browser works behind the scenes, and we've given you the tools to fight back. From mastering block elements and empty tags, all the way to wielding the ultimate power of pre-formatted text. The real question is, will you let the browser dictate your layout, or will you use this toolkit to finally take control of your code? I highly recommend you keep practicing with these structural tags, because understanding this layout foundation is exactly what sets you up to master CSS styling next. Keep coding, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.